There you go. That's one of my haters right there. That's what it look like in real life, bro. Flipping Jankro. It's good. A lot of people are talking about this picture with Deontay Wilder and Michael Hunter. It was posted to Hunter's Instagram, I believe. And the topic of discussion is Deontay Wilder's weight. They're saying he looks extremely skinny. They're wondering what happened, why he's lost all this weight since the third Tyson Fury fight. What's going on here? Well, I don't think it's anything particularly unusual because Deontay Wilder weighed in at a career heaviest for the Tyson Fury trilogy fight. 200 and what was it, 38 pounds? Let me just check here. Yeah, 238 against Tyson Fury. That is way above Deontay Wilder's natural weight, his walking around weight, when he's not pushing loads of weights in the gym. Because that's clearly what he was doing, and he posted videos of him doing it. That's clearly what he was doing in the, 18 months between the second and the third. In fact, even going into the second fight, he'd been pushing a load of weights. He continued it after the second fight. So he's pushing all these weights. He's angry. He's training really hard because he wants to right the wrong. He's drinking all the protein shakes and eating however many times a day. And he manages to come in at 238. His natural weight is probably 212, 213. He has bulked up an enormous amount. And the thing is, when you're naturally very skinny, like Deontay Wilder, once you stop all that intense weightlifting and protein shakes and all that, you're going to shrink right back down to your natural size. And that's all that's happened here as far as I can tell. He's just shrunk back down to his natural size. Now, if we look at Deontay Wilder's weight here, 238 for the Fury trilogy fight, that was his career heaviest. Prior to that, 231 in the second Fury fight, 219 against Luis Ortiz, 223 against Brazil, 212 in the first Tyson Fury fight, 212 pounds. That is Deontay Wilder's natural weight. That's how small he is. 214 against Luis Ortiz. All right, 220 against Berman Stavern in the rematch, 222 against Washington. So I would say Wilder's natural weight range is probably, when he's not pumping loads of weights, his natural weight range is probably between 212 and about 222. Right? He's a skinny guy. Maybe he does a bit of strength and conditioning in one camp and a bit more in another camp. A guy who's 6'7", who's got that kind of frame, it's a reasonable fluctuation, all right? But when you're talking about a guy coming in at 238 and his natural weight is 212, he is carrying an enormous amount of muscle, which his body wasn't genetically designed to carry. Therefore, it puts a strain on his cardiovascular system, the type of strain, again, that his cardiovascular system wasn't designed to deal with. So that's why, in my view, Deontay Wilder gassed out so badly, both in the second and in the third Tyson Fury fights. He was going for strength, particularly in the third fight, and he did seem to have some extra strength for a couple rounds. But that dissipated real quick because, again, he's not designed for 238 pounds of muscle. I always figured that he's better off coming in, 220 at the absolute maximum against Tyson Fury in the, second and third fights. In the first fight, that's the best that Deontay Wilder ever did against Tyson Fury. Now, you could say that Fury was weakened and he didn't fight as aggressively in that fight as he did in the second and third fights. Granted, that's true. But I feel as though Deontay Wilder just had way more energy. And even if Tyson Fury had applied pressure, Wilder would have had a bit more in the tank because he isn't carrying around all this extra bulk. Just my view. Okay, now, whenever I talk about weightlifting and how detrimental packing on loads of muscle can be for a boxer, I always get these muscle heads turn up in the comments saying, oh, that man talking about weightlifting again. Because I know for these guys, it's a lifestyle and they love it and they're obsessed with, sculpting their body and all this kind of thing. And they want to believe that they are the absolute pinnacle of athletic prowess. That's what these guys want to believe. But the reality is, for boxing, it's normally detrimental when you start packing on loads of muscle. If it's a little, again, it all depends on how big you are. And I can't say that it's going to be detrimental for every single fighter. There might be the odd anomaly where it actually works for them. But for the most part, in my experience, you might gain a certain amount of, I don't know, extra strength, extra power in some instances if you've got the technique to actually be able to have that. But any benefits that you get from packing on loads of muscle will tend to be outweighed by the negatives, by lack of stamina, stiffness, etc. And to emphasize the point, Andre Ward recently came out and said that he feels that Anthony Joshua would be better off if he cuts down the muscle mass. So he said here, man, I've been trying to tell Anthony Joshua for the past 6 or 7 years, get the mass off. Then you'll feel faster, you'll want to throw more punches, and you won't hit that wall midway in the fight where that blood fills up in your muscles and you can't get the shots off. Okay, well, Andre Ward clearly doesn't know what he's talking about, does he? Well, I'm being sarcastic. Yes, he knows what he's talking about. The same goes for Manny Stewart, who really wasn't a fan of fighters packing on loads of muscle and, hitting the weights bench. He wasn't a fan of that. What, does he not know what he's talking about? Does Ward not know what he's talking about? I think Teddy Atlas has said something similar for boxing. Now, with MMA, I've heard that it's a bit different, that sometimes the weightlifting can help more in MMA because of all the grappling and whatnot. I don't know about that, okay? I'm not an MMA guy like that. I watch MMA casually, yeah? I'm not a hardcore MMA guy. I'm a hardcore boxing guy. But with regards to boxing, it's not some type of witch hunt against weightlifting that I'm launching for boxing here. Sometimes the muscle heads in the comments take it personally. Oh, that man, you're always having a go at weightlifters and blah, blah, blah. No, I just want to see fighters make the most out of their ability for my entertainment. Do you know what I mean? I want to see the absolute pinnacle of their ability. And I think that most fighters are only going to achieve that when they are fighting at or close to their natural weight. Not when they're packing on 10, 20, 30 pounds of muscle like Wilder did for the Tyson Fury trilogy fight. So anyway, I'll leave it there. Let me know what you guys think in the comments below about Deontay Wilder's weight. I hope if he comes back, that he comes back like this, skinny, like a beanpole. I think that particularly as he gets older, right, the stamina is not going to be the same as you get older, irrespective of how much weights you are or aren't doing. But I think it's going to be beneficial. He's 36 now. It's going to be beneficial. He comes back close to his natural weight and he'll be faster, and he needs to be strategic. That's the thing. All this coming out with rage and looking to knock people's heads off, I think he should use his back foot a little more and really kind of try to use his awkwardness. That's something he didn't do against Tyson Fury. There are fighters who have had success against Fury being awkward, walking Fury onto shots. And I'm not saying that Deontay Wilder is going to fight Tyson Fury again. I wouldn't want to see that, certainly not at this stage. And I certainly would never pick him over Fury. But against other fighters in the division, other big men who might look at the Fury fights and say, okay, that's the blueprint of how to beat Wilder. Against those guys, I'd like to see Deontay Wilder develop a little bit more savvy, be a bit more crafty. Instead of trying to meet fire with fire, move around the ring a bit. I mentioned in a video about Wilder several months ago, DeVarrell Williamson. Now, he wasn't necessarily as good as Wilder. He didn't achieve as much as Wilder achieved. But he was a similar build. He fought Vladimir Klitschko, actually dropped Klitschko. And he was crafty with it. Skinny guy, move around, wait for you to overextend, lunge in with a shot because you're getting frustrated by him constantly moving, and then bang, he nails you with a shot. That's how he dropped Vladimir Klitschko. You go watch that fight. Anyway, I'll leave it there. Let me know what you guys think in the comment section below. If you're tired of the biased narratives and mass censorship on mainstream platforms and you want to be part of a community of critical thinkers who love free speech just as much as you do, then come and join me on Patreon and access my weekly no-holds-barred, censorship-free podcast where we lift the lid on a wide variety of controversial topics. It's not mainstream friendly, it's not politically correct, but that's the whole point. We dare to stand as a beacon of reason against an army of insanity. Just head on over to my Patreon page and select the tier called Hatman Hot Topics. You'll gain access to a minimum of 2 hours of exclusive content every single week, including podcasts, videos, interviews, live stream Q&As, as well as my popular Confessions of a Nightclub Bouncer series. Not to mention a vast back catalog of hundreds of hours of previous episodes. You can listen via the Patreon app with the option to download in high quality MP3. We've also got an Element group where you can come and chat and hang out with myself and other members. Unlike Discord, it has full end-to-end encryption, is decentralized, and it's 100% censorship free. You can also send voice notes as well as much larger audio and video files than you can on Discord. So come and sign up on Patreon. There's no contract, there's no commitment, you can cancel at any time, and it's cheaper than a cup of coffee. So I'll see you over there. I'm out.